budget week. Lots to get through. Let's bring in the Australian's national editor, Dennis Shanahan, and Sky News contributor Chris Uhlmann. Gents, welcome. Dennis, budget week, as I said, election to be called. I think that's the general consensus this weekend or earlier. We'll get into news poll in a moment, but high stakes tomorrow night for the Treasurer, isn't it? He's got to set up Labor's election platform. They're behind in the polls. We know there's red ink everywhere in the books we'll finally get to see. So are you expecting a vote-buying budget? And if so, will it work?
Well, it's certainly a vote-buying budget. There's no doubt about that. It's all spend. There's more than $60 billion since January has been promised. The coalition has basically matched much of it. A lot of it's directed into specific projects in electorates. And so what we're seeing is a big splurge, and we're not seeing any real attention being paid to paying down debt or to try and change the outlook of a decade of deficits. Now, vote buying might just very well work, given that both sides are doing it. And I think that what we'll probably see is not so much an election call before the end of this week or on the weekend, but probably the following weekend and even for a longer campaign, because Anthony Albanese wants time to sell his budget, as does Jim Chalmers, and he also wants more people to say from Peter Dutton, bring out your policies, just as you have, Peter, and this is putting pressure on Dutton and the coalition. So the budget could very well work for the Labor Party, although they're still on track to be a minority government.
Look, you make a good point too, because on the back of the budget, they've got all these excuses to spend taxpayers' money on government advertising. And I guess a longer campaign with their union donations, the third-party support in advertising, they can run it harder and longer than the coalition can, who doesn't have that union bankroll. Interesting, Chris, in the news poll today, you've still got a problem with Labor's primary vote. So any way you look at this bloke, the Prime Minister, is not likely to be able to govern in his own right. And I make the point that we're, historic primary there of 31% for Labor. Coalition, not yet with a 4 in front. That's where they need to be in terms to win, but a lot of bleed to minor parties there, independents and others. And I guess that's the concern for Peter Dutton, because preferences for him, they will be key. And he has to perform, as I say, with the speech of his life on Thursday night.
Yeah, Peter, and look, I think with the coalition, and you've done this on election nights, if I don't see a coalition MP with 43% of the primary vote when we're counting each individual electorate, they can quite often fall short. So absolutely the coalition's got to get a 4 in front of it if it wants to win that election in its own right. And if you look at the margin of error, you could say that nothing much has changed since the last election, that Labor could be on 33 and the coalition could be on 37. So we shall see. And yes, Peter Dutton does need to define himself a whole lot better than he has to date. I think if you asked most people what the coalition's policy alternative was, they would know about nuclear and pretty much nothing else. I agree with you on the idea that net zero would be a good thing to ditch, but I don't think that case has been made. And it needed to be made over the course of the last couple of years. And I think in some ways the coalition got the cart before the horse with nuclear. Absolutely, in the long run, that's something that needed to be done. But they needed to spend every single day with every single member hammering away at that $275 and letting people know that it's the policies of this government that's pushing up that bill, and that every time the government gives you a subsidy, that is a sign of abject policy failure. And that anyone who comes out and says that power prices have dropped by 25% in the last year is telling a lie. What's happened is that electricity prices have been subsidised, not just by the federal government, but by state governments. So I think with Peter Dutton, the problem is, if he wanted to make a dramatic move, it's probably too late to do that.